And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. Vlogcast comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. Vlogcast Dread is a combination of spite and the Streisand effect because why was my microphone down? Because I was trying to be a little bit more conservative and not jump into the red. Because, it'd be really nice if I was, able to be understood without, sounding like a Walmart version of a Darth Vader mask with no battery power. And following up with this, sometimes it's just to follow through with the old adage that sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I'm your main host. I'm known as Shujin Tribble, and you can find me pretty much everywhere under that name. It's Shujin. And if I sound like I'm a little off tonight, yeah, I'm a little off tonight. At the moment, looks like it might be just myself and Unrenowned Tech from the right-hand coast of North America. Hi, man. How are you doing? Good morning.
Not too shabby. A little bit prepared. Got my caffeine. I'm okay.
Cool.
It's about as best as I can get right now.
That's fair enough.
Is okay.
For me tonight, it's 2% milk because I didn't think that drinking alcohol tonight was a really good idea on my part. So, is what it is. So, hi, folks. Of course, as always, if you decide that you'd like to be joining us, feel free to do that when we record on YouTube. There's a thing about that, and I'll explain in just a moment. Because if you do join us, you can be over there on the live chat. And again, there's things about that in the morning. Stephanie, you made it. Good morning. Hope things are going well for you. Io, congratulations. Your mobility. Well done. And Felis, hi. Good evening for you. It's going to be a little bit on the weird side right about now. As of the recording tonight, it is the 12th of May. Reminding you that the next week, the next calendar week, fully, I should say, which is the 19th to the 25th. Am I remembering correctly? You know what? Pull up freaking calendar.
Next week is the 19th to the 25th.
Okay, so I am remembering it correctly. I have decided that I am not going to be doing any shows whatsoever. So that means that HCTV is going to be taking 2 weeks off for both of those weekends. I will be doing no radio streams, so that's a thing. The long and short of it is, the date my wife passed was the 22nd. I have no idea what kind of condition I'm going to be in. I never do. May is always a tough month for me. So, what's going to happen? Right now, truth be told, I don't know. And I'm just going to kind of be here, and I will very likely be, in Second Life a lot just to hang around with folks, not doing a show for a change. But I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that, it will be what it will be. So I will make sure that there is announcements all over the place just to make sure that everybody's on board, everybody is aware as to what's going on, because, it's only so much that we can do. Is what it is. Stephanie saying, take care of yourself, Shujin, that's what matters. I try. I really do try. Trouble is, it's difficult, to put it mildly. There are reasons. I'm not going to go into them all, but I try. Which is, again, part of the reason why I'm not drinking alcohol tonight. So, is what it is. So, thank you for being patient, missing last week's show because I got sapped. My strength just killed me. But, here I am, ready to go ahead and do the job tonight and, kind of work from there. So, anything you want to make mention about before I get rolling over here, boss?
You mean the stuff we talked about before?
Maybe not necessarily. Maybe
I'll wait for later for when we start introducing the show for that. But I don't really have anything. I'm just taking it one day at a time.
Yep. Yep. That's fair.
You know, I don't have an immediate loss right now. There is a whole lot of drama. That also makes it not a good idea for me to be drinking tonight either.
Fair
So
enough.
I'm with you in tonight's sober show.
Fair enough. In
Mhm.
that case, let's go ahead and get everything rolling over here. So, with 5 minutes on the clock, your 5-minute freestyle starts here. Anachronism. I know, big word for me. And believe it or not, without making reference to mead or wailing on each other with padded sticks, I can actually explain why anachronism is kind of a thing for me tonight. Anachronism is basically something that appears to be useful, even though it's like not really useful, not like it used to be. But some folks will still hold on to stuff like that. For instance, give you a perfect example. This. Now, some people are going to look at it and go, "Okay, it's a box. People use boxes." Yeah, I know. It's a cardboard box. I know people still use these. It's still a thing. It's very specific, and I know on video it's backwards. One of these days I'll figure a way of fixing that. But I've showed this off before, and I've kind of talked about this before. This box I bought at the shop at work not too very long ago, and it's a tube. Well, I mean, it's sort of a tube. It's a tube that's got a paper wrapped around it, and people kind of go, "Okay, yeah, what's so weird about that? I mean, it's wrapping paper. It's no, it's paper that's got print on it for a reason, to give you instructions on it, but it also has a bunch of holes. What I have ownership of for a couple of dollars, apparently retail for like $15, is a player piano roll, relatively recently made too. Which most people are going to be going, what now? Yeah, before there were records that were easily transported and played in any old dive, could have somebody's piano playing literally recorded onto these sheets and played back on a piano. Didn't matter if it was in tune or not. It was just kept it rolling and entertained the folks. This one in particular is got a tempo. I know it's kind of hard to read, but tempo 70 beats a minute, and it's Mr. Bojangles, played by, well, I can't really read it too well because I can't really read too well in the light that I've got. Recorded by a guy who literally sat down to play at a piano, and his keystrokes were recorded on paper, reproduced on paper over and over and over again. This is something that you don't have very much use for anymore, because those people that have got a piano, and that's something that doesn't happen very often anymore, they're typically not going to have a player piano. They're going to have an electronic piano, not an electric one, because that's something different. You look up what a Fender Rhodes is, you'll see what an electric piano looks like. But a player piano, that doesn't happen anymore, because it's an investment. Me, I got this for myself. I don't have a player piano. I don't have any need for a player piano. I'm never going to own a player piano. The likelihood of me ever seeing one in person is real low, but I've got this for no other reason other than whimsy. Anachronism is exactly what this is. It doesn't really serve a purpose, and it's completely out of place in the digital area, where right next to me, I literally have dozens upon dozens of CD cases because I ripped my CDs and I put them onto my home server. Technically, if I wanted to, I could digitize this. I could take pictures upon pictures and then run it through a system to, change all those holes into MIDI information and then play it back. I could, I'm not going to. Because the purpose of these anachronisms is literally just that. It's whimsy. It's because it's fun. Does it have to serve an actual functional reason? No. So if it turns out that there is something that you want to get for yourself that it doesn't matter that you've got it or you don't, and maybe you can't even really use it, but maybe it's just because it's kind of cool to have in your own head. Couple bucks, $5. Does it really matter? Yeah. But sometimes it's kind of cool to have just a little something just because. Maybe just having a smile is just reason enough. So with that out of the equation, if you will, now's about as good a time as any to just keep rolling because, well, that's kind of what you pay us for, although you don't exactly pay us.
Roll out. Roll out.
So help me if I was afraid you were about to say roll out the barrel, in which case, no. No,
No.
we're
No. I wasn't going to transition to that song.
good call. So let's go ahead, keep it rolling with the horrible scopes. So for those of you that know what your astrological sign is, cool. Those of you that don't, get yourself a D12. I don't remember what they're called. I don't really care. But if you need one with all those cool squiggly lines on it, get in touch with the nice folks over there at Heart of the Game Fredonia. They're the store with the mimic in the. There's a store that's supposed to have a mimic in the window, and just that's a good indicator as to what's going on inside. So take a swing over. Maybe they'll sell it to you. I mean, if you show up, yeah. They don't do mail order. But if you let them know that I sent you, they'll say, cool, who? And just kind of work it from there. It's Heart of the Game Fredonia. Home of the Blue Devil.
So jealous that you still have a game store that's active. The one by me just closed down.
Well, it's not exactly close by me. So it's actually in Fredonia. So,
The nearest game store to me at this point, after that one closed down, I have to drive all the way to DC. That is not a trip I want to make.
Most people don't.
No.
For various reasons. So, of course, as always, there's a reason for this week's scopes. Because, So we're taking you on a trip to Japan for some cool info this week. It's long before the Obon Festival, but that's okay. There's plenty more to enjoy. So, let's do that. Aries, in 2020, Japan hosted its second Summer Olympics and its fourth overall in Tokyo. The motto for the games was Discover Tokyo, and the mascot, chosen by Japanese school children, of course, was a blue and white superhero with the power to teleport. So this week, just because you fell asleep at the bar and then woke up the next day at home does not mean that you can teleport. You are not Nightcrawler.
For the briefest of moments, I thought it was going to be Pepsi Man, and then I'm like, oh wait, no, blue and white, not blue, white, and red. And Pepsi Man just runs really fast. He doesn't have teleport.
And he just runs and runs and runs.
And then he ruins everybody's day while changing all their drinks to soda, not caring about whether or not they have to worry about their sodium levels.
The worst part about it is, I look at Pepsi Man's face and all I see are fembots from the Bionic Woman.
I see more of Amazos, the kind of villain hero, the overpowered super whatever.
Yeah.
Taurus, we've almost all heard of the Japanese samurai warriors. They existed from the 12th to 19th century. Some of you didn't know that the Victorian era was at the back end of this time, which also had the American Wild West and French privateers in the Gulf of Mexico. meaning you could have had a samurai, English thief, American gunslinger all together on a French pirate ship all at the same time. So this week, keep your mind in place when we tell you that they could have all been told where to gather by a new messaging system that we call fax. It's all true.
Yep. Facsimile machines, or at least the precursor to what we consider it as a modern version. Yeah, it was a real thing. And, that is, we kind of talked about it Friday night, that is a cartoon series that's just waiting to have happen, just anthropomorphize a whole bunch of different animals for each one of them. It's perfect. It's perfect. Gemini, because Japan is a region known as, in a region known as the Ring of Fire, with regards to the tectonic plates, there are lots of naturally occurring hot springs. In the northern areas, especially in the Nagano prefecture, there is the Japanese macaque, also known as the Japanese snow monkey. They live in these colder climates while bathing in those same hot springs in the winter. So this week, enjoy some bathtub soaking time. You've deserved it.
It's pronounced Sika, right?
Yes.
Okay. My memory's not what it used to be. Cancer Moonchild. In Japan, it's common for people to bow in greeting. In the streets of Nara, Japan, though, tame Sika deer roam the streets and have learned how to bow to humans. It's not because they understand the custom, but because tourists will give them food for doing it. So this week, you want some treats for yourself? You're an adult now. You are allowed. Just remember, moderation, especially with alcohol.
Yeah, especially considering that, we're coming into spring and some people will need to be using antihistamines.
Yep. And especially when you're in Japan, the police don't really tolerate public drunken inebriation very well.
Nope. No, they do not. Leo, learning the Japanese language is a little more challenging than just learning the words and converting. Instead of the English style of ordering sentences by subject, verb, object, for example, saying, I write words, Japanese uses subject, object, verb. For example, I words write. Meaning you'll have to actually work harder to understand what's being said. So this week, using closed captioning on your anime collection to learn how to speak isn't the best way to learn. Maybe learn Klingon so you'll have a common language between you and the folks you want to talk to.
I still love that story of two people falling in love, not knowing each other's languages, but they both spoke Klingon.
That works.
It's so cute. Like, that is a nerd version of a Hallmark story.
Now, before Klingon was a thing, my father-in-law did not speak Japanese when he was... Okay, so quick version of it. My father-in-law was World War II U.S. Army Occupation Force member. He was a cook in Japan after the surrender. My mother-in-law, her family was one from some of the southernmost islands. They were landowners, and, well, they got screwed because land was divvied up to all the different folks and whatnot, so the family kind of got screwed out on that.
Yeah.
Dad learned how to speak Japanese in order to speak to her from the ladies in Japan, which meant that when he finally tried to speak with her and her family, he was speaking as a woman.
He was speaking from a position of submission versus dominancy.
Not even, because there is a different way that you're supposed to speak.
Okay.
And yes, there is a cultural hierarchy thing, but there are also different ways that women speak that men don't. And it was it was a matter of some not annoyance, but peculiarity, shall we say? So that was That was interesting
Mhm.
back in those
I
days.
bet. All right. Virgo. Virgo, we mentioned the bow before, but there's a specific art to it too. You have to know culturally where you relate to the person you're greeting to know how deeply you're supposed to bow to each other. Since a deeper bow shows more respect to the other, get ready to almost lose your balance. So this week, don't be surprised if you're not bowed very deeply to. It's not personal. Actually, it's very personal. Sorry.
Yeah, I had to learn a little bit about that, and I was given a lot more um, a lot more forgiveness, I think,
Hmm.
because Fuge was, the kid of the family, you might say, by comparison.
Yeah, I learned bowing through. I took martial arts, and I took it for a long time. So, if I were to go to Japan and have to bow, they would probably go, "Oh, this guy actually has some practice."
Yeah.
At least it wouldn't be bloody foreigner.
Libra, if you take a trip to Kyoto, you'll have a chance to see some of the largest number of geisha in day-to-day life. You'll easily recognize them with their elaborate hairstyle and white makeup, a look that's been entertaining people since the 18th century. The white powder covers most of the geisha's face and neck, leaving an unpainted space creating a W shape on the neck. They are trained to be great companions for events in public, not as so-called ladies of the night, shall we say? So this week, if she's laughing at your jokes, it might just be because she's paid to do that. You are funny, just not a comedian.
Yeah, there's actually been a couple things that happened over in Japan thanks to tourists doing stupid things. The Gion district is closed because the tourists were being disrespectful to the geisha that were walking around that area. There's a town that's putting up a board, some kind of board or building or something that completely blocks the view to Mount Fuji because they were just swarming the town with no respect, no consideration or respect to the people that live there.
Great.
You know, it's kind of like when we announce here in the states, oh look, if you here's the path of the eclipse, and people flood those towns to see the eclipse, but they don't take into account that there are people living there and so on. Maybe you should be a little bit more polite or respectful to nope, nope, I want to see the eclipse, damn everybody else. you know it just is what it is. Scorpio, if you're awake at 3 in the morning in Tokyo and you're looking for something to do, why not get to smelling like fish? Employing over 60,000 people, that's Tsukiji. Did I say that right? Tsukiji?
Good enough?
Tsukiji Fish Market in Tokyo is the world's largest seafood market. You get to see fish flying, literally flying across the facility because that's how they do it. So this week, don't get there until 5. That's when the tuna gets into the mix. And if you're not seeing how big tuna really are, you are missing out. What's even better is if you can actually get to those kinds of markets where they process the tuna by hand and they let you watch. First off, don't touch the knife. It's bigger than your head and it's sharper than anything you've ever encountered in your life. And two, stay well back. They are fast and efficient, and it is a wondrous thing to watch these experienced fishmongers just process it up and make it some of the most beautifully prepared fish you've ever seen. It's so beautiful. You want to eat it on the spot. And some of those markets actually have stalls where they will prep the fish that is caught that day for you right then and there. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
for anybody that's wondering, it's a fish. How bad could it be? You've never gone like real fishing. And I say that as somebody that used to go every once in a while to the piers to get, snappers or well, eel, but only because eel have a tendency of deciding that they're hungry. They want to go after the No, big fish. Big fish will try to take you into the water with them.
Yeah. When, if you think a whole salmon, like I've processed a whole salmon in my house before. Big fish. At least when you're a kid, it is. A tuna could literally drag an adult into water and kill them
Oh yeah,
if it got a good hold of them.
oh yeah.
Uh, they are not little. You do not feel bad for tuna.
Do not trifle with the denizens of the deep.
Yeah.
Sagittarius. Today, Japan has over 6,000 islands, but 15 million years ago, it was just a landmass attached to the eastern coast of Asia and slowly moved out, creating the Sea of Japan. So this week, if you're having trouble getting to sleep, start counting the islands. Bet you don't make it past the first 300.
Yeah. Yeah. That's. Yeah. It's a lot.
Mm.
Capricorn. Walking around modern Japan is amazingly cool to tourists. Being able to see both businesses and traditional kimonos sharing the public areas at the same time. If you're wondering if you can get a kimono for yourself, sure, but it's going to cost you. Not just in money, but in time invested into getting into one. So this week, find a secondhand clothing shop and buy a used wedding kimono. You might never wear it, but it'll look amazing if you hang it on a tall wall. The other thing I would say is that if you were actually going to go to Japan, is they have a specific fashion wear that they use, style of clothing, traditional clothing that they wear during their heat waves. Um, my my significant other spent time in Japan, and they were telling me about changing out of just standard clothes that they were wearing to a Japanese style clothes that looked very similar to like a martial arts gi that I used to wear, in that how it tied clothes and such, and that it was very breathable, very light and very breathable, much more than just a cotton T-shirt and everything, which surprised them like crazy.
Yeah, I think I've got something like that. I've forgotten what it's called, and unfortunately, I've changed my dimensions since then because it's over 20 years ago now since I was in Japan. So, yeah, yeah, really cool.
But it looked really cool on them too.
Oh yeah. Aquarius, you might be used to houses and apartments being measured in square feet or even square meters, but in Japan it's measured in tatami, or mats made from rice straw. A mat's length is always twice its width, and its size is standardized depending on the region. So, for that reason, room size is often indicated by the number of mats needed to cover the space. So, this week, this is why you take off your outside shoes when you come indoors, because any dirt will destroy tatami mats over time. So, buy new socks. That really is a thing, by the way. And for anybody that has kind of wondered, why, it's literally so that you don't get outside dirt into the house. And that's also why you have slippers for indoors, but then you've also got a different set that stay in the bathroom. And you change from one to the other as you cross the threshold.
Yeah.
Yes, the stuff I actually the stuff I actually remember.
Let's see. Oh, sorry, I lost my place. There we go. Pisces. This is a special one. Hey, Pisces. We know. You think about this all the time, but really, it's okay. If you get to visit during the Oban Festival, you're going to smile. Not only is there a shaped fire in the shape of the kanji for Oban on a mountainside during the festival, but you get to finish the festival in class. So this week, the end of the Oban Festival has everyone clanging on pots and pans, basically yelling at the dead to GTFO. enjoy it.
Yeah, that literally is the end of the Obon Festival. It's kind of like the Day of the Dead. Um, it's a festival where the spirit of the ancestors of the dead get to visit for a while, and you put out special food and whatnot for them. And at the end of it all, you clang on pots and yell and scream and basically tell them, look, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And that's how you finish it off.
Yeah, I went to a Japanese festival celebration of the dead. There was I forget what it was called, um, but there was a lot of dancing. There was a lot of music, and there were carts, little stalls with a lot of food.
Oh
It
yeah,
was really nice. It
oh
was
yeah.
absolutely, um, even though I don't believe in the afterlife and such, it was a very nice um, event, and everybody was very respectful. I surprised the heck out of the people hosting the event because I actually have my own collapsible fans from Japan, used for when you're really really warm or for style, but mine are actually designed for men. And so when they were handing out these little plastic things, I was like, "Oh, no, thank you. I appreciate it, but I brought my own." And they're like, "You did?" So I pulled out, and they're like, "Oh, that's amazing!" So as I got around, people are like, "Where'd you get that? Where'd you get that?" And it's like, hmm
Yep, yep. Kind of the same way that when we were out in Tokyo with the family, it we were on the tour bus. Every time we were on the bus, it stopped raining, and every time we got off the bus, it started to rain a
started
little
raining.
bit. So, our I say our aunt, but I think it was both of them. Although it was Fuji's aunts, my aunt in law, whatever. Anyway, um, they stopped at I think it was even like a 7-Eleven because they're there, and came back and gave us both a good traditional black umbrella handled umbrella. I say it weird that way because yeah, I mean when you think of the good old fashioned traditional umbrella, that's what we're talking about, not this big ass golf umbrella. Great. That thing survived years for me. Uh,
I have I actually have a pocket umbrella that is SPF 100 rated. It's a silver material, and it's good for rain or shine. And as somebody who burns very easily, I had that with me at the festival too. And after the cloud cover disappeared about halfway into the festival at the height of the sun, and the temperature went from like 60 degrees to like 85 inside of an hour.
yeah,
Umbrellas make a difference. I don't care if it's rain or shine. If you have an umbrella, you're thinking ahead. You know.
good call.
Mm.
So those are your horrible scopes for this week. Remember, if you like what you got, I believe it or not, I actually hope that you did because this one was a lot of fun for me for remembering stuff. But of course, as always, if you don't feel that you got a good enough shake this time, Aquarius, I'm looking at you. You can go ahead and you can ask for a nicer one by bribing me, which involves basically just feeding my ego and saying please. Or conversely, if you'd actually like to bribe me, you can do that easy enough. Over the coffee page, coffee.com/Icarus the Lunar Guard. Yes, there's a story behind that. I'll have these posted at the end of the week as usual. Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, Discord, Blue Sky. I've still got this thing here, NFTs, Blue Sky invite codes. I don't know where to get a thing of acrylic that I can put it into and make a cube of acrylic for you. I'll figure it out. Okay? Fine. I'll stop looking at thousands of dollars and just knock it down to like $750. Somebody will take me up on that one of these days.
By,
That'll be nice.
by the way, just real quick,
Uh huh.
I'm just looking at my chat history
Hmm.
with my SO, and the festival that I went to, the Japanese festival that I went to here in the U.S. that they took me to, was a variation of the Obon festival.
which means that should have been at the end of August, early September, right?
Yeah, give or take.
Yep, that's what it's supposed to be.
The conversation was a little bit before that, and after that we talked in person, so there's no, you know, we we didn't text while we were there. So,
Fair
but
enough.
yeah, it was a wonderful experience. It really was. And what was funny is you could easily tell and not just by the people who were showing up that were obviously have Japanese heritage, but by the people who were showing up, the ones who looked lost versus the ones who didn't. And I must have looked lost, but uh, I don't know. I was very comfortable there. I didn't, um, and I didn't. I swear, I kept my hands to myself.
Good on you.
No, they spend all the time and energy. You don't want to screw that crap up.
True.
Or I shouldn't call it crap.
Still very true.
But I have respect for that. And a poor sound crew. Oh God, they couldn't get one of the speakers to work. I refrained. I really wanted to go over and go, my people, I know how to fix this. But I didn't.
Good on you. This is episode 493 on the docket, Your Honor. We will go on for you. Of course, as usual, like I said, the month of May is really tough on me. And I try ever so hard to make sure that my personal feelings don't directly color what it is that we end up talking about. It happens because, as much as I try to keep my biases out of the equation, they're there. There's not much of anything to be done about it. But considering that this is coming up and I kind of had to do what I've had to do for the last almost 20 years, it seems worth taking a couple of moments to, think on some of the people, some of the events, and realize how much it's shaped us, how much we owe, and, it kind of works out well. So before we get properly started over here, there is something that I am going to do. I'm going to share this. That is our my on my desktop right now. Our view, IR fan view. Great little program, by the way. I want to mention about that. Great little program.
View.
It's
My God, I haven't heard View in forever, man.
Yeah. Oh, and it's a little it's a little chopped off on the we paused the preview to save on resources. Well, don't do that. Thank you.
I used to use View religiously back in the day.
God, this is okay. Fine. This is the way it's going to be. This is the way it's not going to be. All right, fine. So that's the best I can do. So the picture that I've got there is of my wife and I. Of course, I mean you can pretty well figure that out. This is like my favorite picture of us, believe it or not. Even beyond the photos from when we were married or so many other times. This picture in particular is like my favorite because there are stories to go along with this one, and I'll make the real quick one that's so great about this for me. The dress that she's wearing. We went to a store, clothing store at the local big mall, and I forget what kind of a sale they were having on it. And so we go in there, we're looking through stuff, and just to see, because I mean, what's the worst can happen? And I found that dress on the hangers, And I'm just like, hey, hon? What? Would you? Really? Would you? Okay. Okay. So she took it. She went into the dressing rooms and she kind of knocks on the door out. Hon? Yeah. Come look. She opened up the door a little bit and let me peek in. And there he is, wearing it. And she's like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. This is mine now. The reason why is because you take a look at the slit on the side of where her collarbone is. Yeah, you see how that's got those little they're called frogs. Those little rope closure kind of things that go down to the side to under her armpit. Yeah, it looks like it's about to open up, doesn't it? It's not. On that specific dress, there is no way for that to open. That's actually stitched closed. There is no zipper down the side. The zipper is in the back. So part of the reason why she loved this dress, not just because it showed off her curves, was because it always looked like it was about to fall open and expose her entirely. And she absolutely adored that look because it was always a matter of, you can look. You're not going to see anything, but you're welcome to look.
Hmm.
And there is a very famous clothier, wardrobe person from back in the day, Bill Thies. Bill Thies had a way of clothing women, especially on TV shows. You might have heard of one of them, Star Trek. The titillation factor is directly related to how likely the viewer thinks the product will completely fall apart while they're watching. And that's the way that Bill made his stuff. So you take a look at some of the stuff on Star Trek back in the day, you get the idea. It was fun, and I absolutely adore that dress. I had it recreated in Second Life for exactly that reason. And you know what? She's the reason why I keep going on through everything. As tough as it's been over almost 20 years, she's part of the reason why I go on. So before I get you directly into this one, by the way, Tech, we kind of have Io to thank for part of this also, because I forget which it was. It might have been my personal. I think it was my personal um, Discord channel. Pretty sure it was. Io had basically uttered the same kind of thing as what Heretic Woman had said on many an occasion. And I think it was over in the Contentious channel about how The Handmaiden's Tale should not be an instruction manual.
Yeah.
And as soon as I read that, I'm just like, you know what? That's what Heretic Woman would say. So you kind of pulled that out without intending to, without realizing that you'd done it. Heretic Woman was a goddamn force of nature. Still miss her. It's been, God, was it been 6 years now? I think, since her passing. And man, if there's one thing that I loved the most, and Tech, you know this, whenever she would share her screen with us, when it was far easier to do that, every time she would do it, I would lean in really close to the screen that I'm viewing it on, so that I could start counting how many tabs she had open in whichever browser it was that she was sharing. And I think the top was something in the low 30s, like 32, 33 tabs for one program. And I called her out on it, only for her to go ahead and say, yeah, ask me how many browsers I actually have open, how many different browser programs at the same time. And it's just like, you know what? Whatever, man. You want to show off, that's fine. You show off, that's cool.
She had a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
She was always looking things up, always referencing things. I had a lot of respect for her.
Kind of had to, considering that she was short, redheaded, and would just as soon punch in the nards as give you a compliment.
Mm-hmm.
She never punched me in the nards because I kind of stayed away from her because, you know, short little arms. It's not hard to step away. So it worked out good.
I'm actually eating a piece of Spam tonight in remembrance of her.
Girl.
Not because she was a fan of Spam. I don't know if she was or wasn't. I can't remember. But for all her wonderful halal fans that used to love to file false reports against her accounts, trying to say that she was leading them on, or she was putting false information in there, or she was.
Oh my God. How I absolutely lost count of the number of times that Muslim men were hitting on her. It was
Which is very odd considering, and it's really odd considering it. Here's a woman who is saying, "No, I think your religion's bullshit. I think your prophet was a diaper diddler," and
that's a good way to put it.
uh, shout out to a YouTube channel that I really like, No Panic Button, for that one. Anyway, and that the religion was just a bunch of malarkey, and that she didn't believe in God, let alone anybody's Allah, and yet they were still supposedly interested in her, attracted. And it's like, okay, if you're attracted to that, and your religion says that is wrong, and you think that your religion is right, then you yourself need to go, like, get you need to sit down with some personal time and re-examine what you do and do not believe, and what you do and do not want out of life, because you're fucking confused.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I was also got a thing over here, by the way. I got offered to be an anchor wife for Muslim men back in my 20s. I said no. Um, th- no, that wasn't what was happening. It wasn't that they wanted an anchor wife. They wanted her. And there were a number of times where it was, dude, your profile shows that you're married. It'll be fine. No,
Don't won't.
no, that's not the way it works. And by the by, she was from outside of Toronto, so yeah, she's Canadian. Interesting. Oh, and you're also getting a compliment from Io. No Panic Button is all capital letters. Awesome.
That's not a compliment for me. That is a compliment for No Panic Button, because I have nothing to do with the channel.
No,
I just think that they're awesome.
you pass it along or something. I don't. You know
Mhm.
what, Io? You go ahead and let them know. You got mentioned on a show. We
Yeah,
think you're
yeah.
awesome. I don't
Join
know
No
who it
Panic
is.
Button's Discord. They do D&D games.
Okay. I know nothing about them, so I don't know. I don't know.
Don't worry about it.
It's okay. And I apologize because I read that in Rainbow Dash's voice in my head, and anybody that doesn't know the reference, that's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. Hi.
Yeah, Heretic Woman was a force of nature.
God damn, I miss that little shit.
And she lived up to the saying, "The good ones die young." She went quietly in her sleep, just went to bed. She was done. You know? Unfortunately, God, man, if she had been around to see Trump win, I think she would have set, half of the continental United States on fire.
Dude, if she had been around to see that, she would have put anger in the Pixar movie. Oh God, what the hell? What Inside Out to
Yeah.
shame. Lewis,
By the way,
who
there's a
was it?
sequel to that.
Lewis Black. That's who it was, wasn't it?
And he was perfect for it.
Oh God, was he ever?
He was absolutely perfect for that character, and he's back because they made a sequel. The girl hits puberty, and all the other emotions like anxiety and everything else kick in. Or
Okay.
move in.
I
In the preview, it's hilarious because those little construction guys that were originally in the first movie, they come in and they do a quick demo of the play demolition renovation of it, but they do it like if they were the lowest paid company on earth level. So it's a mess, just like anxiety and other feelings make you feel, right? So
Okay.
the whole place became a giant dumpster fire. And I was like, this is just a preview and I already want to see it. This is epic.
Just goes to show, man, Pixar does what they do because they have a way.
When the people who are part of the creative team are allowed to be creative,
Yep.
we get amazing things.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's why there's such amazing stuff. You know what? Okay, we're gonna end up going sideways here for a second. Not in the free thinker atheist circle or anything like that, but kind of sideways from the standpoint of the creative folks that are no longer with us that kind of have helped out on this one. Although you kind of have to go like an extra step or three to get to this. Batman the Animated Series. I know this is not going to sound like it makes sense, but just follow me along with this one. When they were doing the animation for Batman the Animated Series, they wanted to do it in such a way that it hadn't been done before in order to get a look, to get an aesthetic that nobody had been able to do before. And they did it by changing one simple piece. They started making all the artwork on black paper and painting on top of that so that everything was dark. Everything was you had shadows built into everything. You didn't need to try to color in stuff and have to match black for black because it's a pain in the ass to do that. Every piece had a uniform color, and everything built on top of that was gorgeous. And it was simply a mind-bending experience because it was just the creativity, the artistry was there and built into it. Reason why I'm bringing that up is because that segues over into Mr. Conroy, who was the voice of Batman for that entire run and for years. And he is no longer with us. And my God, for someone to have come into a role whose previous best-known voice was Adam West, to come in and suddenly, yes, this is now Batman. Holy hell. That's simply... That's something that doesn't happen very often. Like, ever. Really, in entertainment. To suddenly just be, and he covered the cartoon, he covered a couple of movies, admittedly, animated movies, a number of video games, and reprised the role of Bruce Wayne / Batman in live action at one point when they did this whole massive TV conglomeration on the CW, I think is what it was at the time, where the Crisis on Infinite Earths, I think is the kind of thing, and he appeared as Bruce Wayne, Batman, with the voice and everything. Unfortunately, he is no longer with us. But my God, he not only left an indelible link to himself for that characterization, but Mark Hamill has said he's not going to be the voice anymore. No, man, my version of the Joker's done. Period. End of story. Not doing it. I mean, what a legacy, you know? I was mentioning Adam West is my Batman. That's fair. That's fair. It's hard to argue with the line. Sometimes you just can't get rid of a bomb. It's perfectly reasonable. Remind me to play Birds of Prey. I do believe that I have that song. If it's the one from the animated show where they're making reference to all of the superheroes and supervillains, I've heard it. It's actually really cute. It's really funny. They do the Flash dirty though. I'm just gonna say that much. Anybody that knows the song knows what I'm talking about. Those of you that haven't, yeah, you can look it up and find the joke later.
By the way, to any Kevin Conroy fans who aren't familiar, there was a convention of some sort that happened, and if I find it, we'll add it to the show notes. There's a YouTube recording, and he was there, and what they were doing is they were doing the Star Wars script, and Tara Strong was there. Now, if you're not familiar with Tara Strong, I know her best as Bubbles because I am a fan of the Powerpuff Girls. Don't judge me. This I will fight and die on this line. The Powerpuff Girls are fantastic and they are badass.
It's fine.
But she's done other voices as well, including Batgirl, and she's worked hand in hand with Kevin Conroy. And in fact, she did a eulogy for him when he died. But also the voice actors for Pinky and the Brain were there.
So that would
And
be Maurice LaMarche and I forgot what the other guy's name was.
Yeah, I'm not good with names. Anyway, but there was a bunch of people there. The voice of Bender was there from Futurama.
That would be John DiMaggio, if I remember correctly.
And the voice actor for Zoidberg as well.
I couldn't tell you.
But so Kevin Conroy read the narration parts as Batman, while Tara Strong did all the Darth Vader parts as Bubbles. And Pinky was Luke Skywalker. Oh my god, it was hilarious. It was great. It was amazing. At first you start listening to it and you're laughing, and then you just really get drawn into it. It was really, really good. And it was just like, these guys are amazing. In fact, I think Io just found it.
Yep.
Yeah, ECC 2012 voice actor panels reading Star Wars. Yep. Thank you, Io.
You're so good to us.
Yeah, I probably had that bookmarked somewhere, but like Heretic Woman, the way she used to have tabs in her browser open, I have bookmarks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh. So but yeah, to listen to him narrate the narration parts of Star Wars as Batman was fantastic. He will sorely be missed. Just an amazing voice actor.
Yeah.
And of course, it was cancer. And what do we have to say about cancer?
We say we need to normalize saying fuck cancer in every venue that we can.
And in every single language.
Yeah.
And pretty sure it probably sounds amazing in Klingon. but I don't know Klingon. I'm not very good with languages. I will have to get somebody who knows Klingon to tell me.
You know what? I don't know if he's still alive or not. I wonder if Mark Okrand. That's who it was. Who originally made the Klingon. Don't ask me why I remember that. Don't
Because
ask
it's
me.
important to you.
Well, I sort of, yeah. I mean, I did have.
You
Do I still have?
know what's amazing? It's the stuff that we're going through. This is how we as a people deal with death.
Oh yeah.
When we don't have the imaginary belief system of, oh, they went to a better place and they're fine, and so now we don't have to worry about them. No,
God.
we actually keep the memories alive. We actively talk about them, relive the funny stuff, the sad stuff, the happy stuff, and we share it with others to keep everything alive.
Oh no.
And
Oh no.
you know, and it's really awesome. You know, I love this sort of thing. I love learning about people, even if I don't get a chance to meet them. Like, I'm pretty sure, based on the conversations you and I have had, like one on one, that I would have loved to have met Fujin. I'm pretty sure she would have been just absolutely hilarious and sweet and wonderful to meet as a person.
Oh yeah. And I will keep saying it. She was the kinkier of the two of us a lot of times. Io apparently
Nothing wrong
has
with that, man.
found the way to say it in Klingon.
Mm-hmm.
Plow,
Good
plaw.
luck.
I'm trying to figure out if that's an L or an I. Deleuze. You know what? Maybe we'll figure it out later. I'm sure there's a pronunciation guide somewhere. We can figure it out later. That actually, that really would be funny. If Mark was still around. Mark is the guy that originally created the Klingon language.
Even better yet,
Sorry,
get it printed on a hat.
the version of the Klingon language as we know it. And I say that because, okay, nerd alert here for a second.
There's different dialects of Klingon now, isn't there?
Well, no. See, the problem was, if memory serves, it was Jimmy Doohan who created the first words that were used in Star Trek The Motion Picture, which is when we hear the first utterances of Klingon. So it was just a very simple kind of one-off, if you will, because if memory serves, there's like 3 utterances, and then the Klingons just kind of go bye-bye into V'ger. Spoilers, they get sucked into V'ger. You're welcome. And then afterwards they were like, oh, we should probably really see about making a whole language, because otherwise the fans are going to do it. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. So they did. And I did buy a paperback book of the thing. So, you know, it is what it is. It was made up as the show was going on, or rather the movies, and the fans went wild. We want to talk Klingon. And the funny part of it is, Klingon is kind of like one of those languages that's kind of taken off on its own now.
And it's an official language, just like Spanglish.
Yeah.
Or not Spanglish, Esperanto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I dare say it is more popular, but I don't know how widespread Esperanto actually is, so I'm not going to worry about it. The fact that they have Shakespeare festivals in Klingon.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. I don't remember which came first. The Klingon translations of like Hamlet and whatnot on its own, or if it got inspired because of the Star Trek The Undiscovered Country, where General Chang is just like, you've never listened to Macbeth until you've heard it in the original Klingon. And it's like, wait, no, what? I don't know. I don't know.
And you know, this is a good transition for me because movies and television series tend to be very inspiring. Um, we see it just now, as we were talking about, where it inspired people to literally go and translate the Shakespearean plays into Klingon and then get into Klingon garb with Shakespearean garb blended into it and put on plays. And people paid and went to see that. There is a gentleman who is a actor, director, comedian, Ricky Gervais, which anybody who's uh, an atheist who enjoys comedy of sorts probably knows him. People who aren't atheists probably know him too. He's in a lot of different movies. There is a series that started in 2019 called Afterlife. It's a television series. It is streaming on Netflix if I remember correctly. And in the series, his wife dies, and he goes from being a nice guy to being very outspoken. I put all this in the notes, the show notes channel, so we can do it. There is a clip from there on YouTube where one of the people that he works with is saying, you know, well, if you truly don't believe in God, and he's like, I don't. If you are an atheist, I am, and you don't believe in a God, I don't, or an afterlife, whatever. And she's asking him, well, why don't you go around raping and murdering? And he's like, I do. Or she goes, why don't you do it as much as you want? He goes, I do it as much as I want. And she gets a, huh? Kind of look on her face. And he goes,
Yes.
which is not at all. And she looks towards one of her coworkers in the show. And the guy turns around and goes, because he's got a conscience. And, you know, that sort of thing was actually inspired by the people around. You know, people who have said for a long time, you know, the reason why atheists don't go around murdering and raping without fear of a god punishing them for it is because they don't want it done to them. They have empathy, they have a conscience. You know, these are not god-given things. These are just things that are brought about through our environment and our desires. You know, we know how bad it is to murder somebody, so we don't do it. We don't want it done to us either. You know, um, there are consequences as a society that we have put forward with that we agree with. There are consequences for things that we don't agree with, but that's political commentary, and that's for another night. But it's really interesting how these little shows and such can affect other people too. Other people who have never thought of that way before. Like when she goes on to say, well, you know, if you don't believe there's anything after it, why don't you just end it all? You know, and he points out that because there is nothing after it, it makes it more interesting, more important to enjoy the little things along the way, because at some point you're going to give your last hug to to your friend and never know it. You're going to eat your last piece of food or cake. You're going to enjoy your last drink, your last conversation, and you're not going to know it's going to happen until after, and then it happens. So it's more important to enjoy those things now. So when I have people in my life who have passed on, you know, how much regret do I have that I didn't take the time to do the things with them that I wanted to do, you know? Um, well, I would say that right now in my life, compared to somebody else who thinks they have all the time in the world because of the afterlife, I would end up having less regret if that person suddenly converted to an atheist after the death of a friend or a loved one, because I'm already living as if I don't get a second chance with these people.
Yeah. I always pointed out also, and I was thinking of the same thing. Also, Penn Jillette of Penn and Teller also said the same thing, and I don't know who
Yeah,
inspired the other to say it. How why don't you go out murdering and raping all the people that you want? I do. That number happens to be 0. I can hear his I can hear his voice in my head as he's doing it, because he he has said it in a way that is both firm and almost condescending. And I say almost because the inflection that I've always heard him use when he's used this line is always of the I dare you to challenge me to even step on this hill. Never mind challenge me on this hill. You know? And like he's actually giving people something to think about that they hadn't thought about before. And truth be told, the vast majority of us had never thought of it in those terms before. I know I hadn't. And it's a brilliant position. Because, as the expression goes, where's the lie?
And like so many of them have pointed out in the past, so many of these public-facing atheists have pointed out in the past, if the only reason you don't go out and do bad things to people is because you have a fear that there is a higher authority waiting to punish you at a moment's notice, and that's the only thing keeping you from doing it, you are a bad person.
Yeah. I was pointing out, and I'll kind of touch on this for a second, saying, I wish I was in voice. I would rant about how Christian, Muslim, and so many other religions have the farce of, quote, sin today, for tomorrow deity forgives.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
I see that so much. I've
Yeah.
lost count of the amount of people with like Jesus bumper stickers driving like, you know, they're the only person on the road.
Asshats, I believe, is the politically correct term.
Uh, yeah, that's the nice way to put it.
Yeah,
I
I'll
have
use
other
that.
words that I use when I'm in private
Well,
that only my
of
dash cam record. But
course. I mean, it's
God,
kind of
I should probably play that back sometime. That'd probably be a trip.
no,
Um,
no, because I won't be able to
no,
tell
not on
where
the
you.
show. I just meant in private.
No, I get you because I wouldn't be able to tell if you were talking about driving around D.C. or the outskirts of Boston. Either way, I don't.
Oh, dude, I don't even have to go to DC to meet people like that. It's
I don't.
after COVID, after people were indoors for about a year, it's like the world collectively forgot how to drive a car. And I used to professionally drive for work. And, like you used to. You probably went on shorter distances than I did. Um, I drove all over the tri state area down here. Sometimes I would drive 6 hours just to get to a customer. So, I did that for years. So I have a lot of time behind the wheel compared to the average American.
Oh yeah.
And, I have a different awareness level because I used to work on construction sites too. And when you're driving the kind of machines that squish people like a grape and you don't feel a thing because the machine is so big, you develop a different sense of awareness. So when I'm driving down the road and there's this person who, what year is it? Just real quick. What year is it currently on your calendar?
2024, the first
Okay, great.
quarter of the
So,
21st century.
all right, we're in the first quarter of the 21st century. We have Bluetooth technology, correct? Which allows us to synchronize our phones with our cars. Now, some cars don't have Bluetooth. Well, you have earbuds. Well, some people don't want to put earbuds in their ear when they're driving because it blocks out other sounds. That's okay.
That's good.
But that's good. But they do make Bluetooth speakers that you can stick in your car, you know, that have built-in microphones and such, and they're not great, but they work.
Yep.
You also have Bluetooth headsets that only go over one ear and have a microphone. A lot of truckers have them. They make uh, smaller ones that don't block out the sound. I personally have a bone conductive headset that has built-in microphone and such. My ears are completely open to the environment around me. I can have a call and hear the sirens of the ambulance or the fire truck or the police officers when those kind of hey alerts are going off, and so on and so forth. And so we live in a world where we have this kind of technology, and yet I still see to this day somebody driving down the road, one hand on the wheel, their cell phone up to their ear, letting their head to the side, not really paying attention to the road, and they're paying attention to the call. And I'm like, what year do we live in that this is still allowed? I mean, New York, for crying out loud, you do that 3 times in a row and you get your license revoked potentially. Hell, in New York, the way they've written the law, if you get caught texting 3 times in a row, you could lose your license. I would really like to see every state start doing that.
Yeah, there is that, and just because the wirehead in me, if you will, some of those Bluetooth headsets that you're talking about, where it's over one ear, yeah, not only will you be able to use that for phone conversations, of course, because you can. Those being that they are Bluetooth could be connected to pretty much any other wireless device that way. So the radio, two-way radio for the company that you're driving for, and believe it or not, some CB radios these days have also got that as an available thing, which I think is just absolutely incredible. But then again, I'm also the kind of guy that every once in a while at night will tune on the AM radio dial to hear New York City or Indiana or
Yeah, there's like if you stop at any of the major truck stops that have the both diesel and regular, I mean true truck stops.
oh yeah,
Pilot and so on and the rest of them. And they've got all that parking available for the big giant trucks. If you go in there, there is a whole electronics section geared just for the truckers and such. They have headsets that they advertise active use time, right? Like you can have an active call on this for 30 plus hours.
yeah,
There's no iPods on the market that have that kind of charge time. My bone conductive headset, which can blow away any iPods in terms of charge time and use time, can't even come close to that. And they're big, heavy duty headsets with all sorts of bells and whistles, a boom mic, and everything else that tie into their CB.
yeah.
And I look at those and go, well, because I had custody exchanges and things like that. Looking at that, going, wow, that would make if I had to spend days and days and days on a road, I'd have one of those.
Oh hell yeah.
I would make it the investment necessary just to keep hands free so that I could continue to pay attention to the road, keep my hands on the wheel, those sorts of things. And I mean, it's not restricted to truckers. Anybody can buy those things.
Theoretically, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and I was also pointed out, we nearly got killed last week because an idiot drifted into our lane because they were on their phone.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm like when I drive up near the DC area, the closer I get to DC, the more I see people staring at their phones and typing on them and one hand on the wheel. The closer I get to DC, the more it transitions from talking on it to texting. And if I have to go into DC or the surrounding areas, I see an insane amount of people going over crosswalks and down sidewalks, just staring at their phones. I was like, look, I grew up where my computer ran on DOS. Okay. And I've been through the technology changes and I know how amazing this technology is and the infrastructure developed that supports it and everything else. I have a true respect and understanding of that. But there is literally nothing on my phone so important that would make me stare at it while crossing the road.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you.
That is
Yeah. So let's
we got off track.
yeah.
Well, I mean, technically speaking, if you're staring at your cell phone while crossing the road, you're probably going to meet the person staring at their cell phone while driving, and then you're going to become a memory for this show if we know you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's entirely possible.
Remember Bob? Bob was great, except he had a habit of staring at his cell phone. Ah, poor Bob.
Fuck you, Bob. I'm gonna make reference. I'm gonna make a call out to somebody who is long since dead. Eric Weiss. Eric Weiss died on, I forget which year it was, but on Halloween, sadly enough. Because of, well, he was unprepared. He kind of ran his mouth just a little bit and was a little unprepared. But then again, this is what happens when you deal with, college guys that think they can get away with punching somebody in the stomach when they're not ready for it. Some of you don't recognize the name Eric Weiss, which was his birth name. You might recognize him under the pseudonym that he went by, which was Harry Houdini. And he borrowed the name Houdini from someone that he admired. I forget what the first name was, but Houdin. So, yes, Houdini was something else.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he was an escape artist. And his legend, of course, goes far, far beyond his lifetime. Memory serves, I do believe that he has been dead for... actually, come to think of it, I forgot when it was. I think it's been like 100 years.
Well, luckily we have Google for that.
Wikipedia is a wonderful thing. In any case,
he died
Harry,
in 1926.
26. Okay,
so almost 100 years, 98 years ago.
Almost 100 years. Harry, for a lot of different reasons, Harry was inspirational to a lot of people. Not the least of which are, future escape artists. Because Harry did what you're supposed to do. He learned, he researched, he understood the literal mechanic of his craft, so that when he went out and he performed, there was never a moment in his performances, except that last one, where he was ever in danger. And he milked that expectation of danger to the breaking points because it was fun. Or more appropriately, it was fun to be able to trick the rubes, shall we say. But, yeah. What ended up happening is that he famously said that he could take a punch to the stomach. And his stomach was so rock solid, he'd be able to, tank anything that anyone threw at him. And unfortunately, he got punched in the stomach by a big college guy before he was ready for it, and it damaged internal. I forget, it was his appendix or spleen or whatever it was, and it made it impossible for him to do one of the escapes that required him to be able to bend at the stomach and lift himself from upside down to right side up, and he drowned, literally, on stage. One of the things that he was also famous for, to a degree that even James Randi was on the level of, is that he loved his mother. He loved his mother, and when she died, he wanted to believe. He wanted so hard to believe that there were these, because seances at that time were, a thing. Talking with the dead, that was a thing. And he wanted to be able to reach out. And he discovered that these people were just making it up. It was just fakery. And he recognized some of the stuff that they were doing. The cold reading, the hot reading, the making things levitate, through ways of, strings or pushing on things. And he hated that because he recognized how much people were losing money through these groups, these charlatans. So he would intentionally go into these seance groups to expose them for being fakes. He had to put on makeup and alter his appearances because they came to recognize him. so that he wouldn't be allowed in unless he tricked him. And he did. And you'll excuse me, I have to cough. Excuse me. So, like I said, Harry tricked out these guys, and he called them out, and he made sure that people knew that they were fakes. And what happened some decades later? This frail little old man, known as the Amazing Randi, who kind of did some of the same things, went out there and he set up challenges for anyone with a claim of supernatural ability, paranormal abilities, or psychic abilities. Demonstrate it for me, and you can have originally, I believe it was $10,000, but it eventually became a $1 million challenge. Just demonstrate it that what you can do what you actually say that you can do, and you can have $1 million. We'll set up the parameters, and you tell us what it is that you can do and under what circumstances. Okay, and we'll agree on the parameters of how to test for it, and okay. And not only did no one win the $1 million because they've never been able to prove that they had these abilities that they claimed, there were a number of very large named, quote unquote, psychics and mediums who refused to take part because they thought it was demeaning in one way, shape, or other. Very specifically, since Houdini is dead, we can mention him. Unfortunately, the Amazing Randi is no longer with us, so we can make a reference to him. But I will go ahead and I will very clearly list out a very dead and fuck you ever so much to Sylvia Browne. Since Bridget can't be here for it, I'll go ahead and I'll just say it. Fuck you, you bitch. He's not dead. I don't think, but I believe it was Montel Williams who had her on so many times. You know what, Montel, fuck you too while we're at it. But yeah, Tech, with Harry Houdini, I don't know if you knew that about him, about busting up all these seances and these psychics and whatnot.
In fact, he before he died, he gave his wife essentially a passphrase. Because he said people will come to you saying that they can speak on my behalf, that they're in contact with me. And if I really have figured out a way beyond the grave to come back to talk to you, here is the phrase or words or whatever it was I'm going to use. No one, but no one who approached her knew what that phrase or whatever that special key trigger was.
Right. It was written down, and it was handed down to their daughter, I think is who it was, who kept that paper. And I forget when it was, but sometime within the last 10 years, I think is what it was, she finally revealed it. What that phrase was, it wasn't a sentence. It was a combination of words. And yeah, nobody. So yeah. And that's also part of the reason why I've said I do not believe that the idea of an afterlife, I do not believe that that's plausible, because if it were, my wife would have gotten to me already. No question in my mind.
Now, on the other hand, and this is something that we can never truly know, but I am a fan of fiction, anime fiction. I think it's called isekai. It's a Japanese word. Basically, a person dies in this world and they're reborn in another world that is different. So in this world, we have a focus on getting things done through science and technology, but you might be reborn in a world where science and technology doesn't exist, but magic exists. throwing fireballs and lightning bolts actually exists from the palm of your hands, right? But the science and technology behind bullets doesn't exist. That stuff just doesn't exist because nobody ever spent time in there. So you have these stories of like an architect who has knowledge of detailed construction of villages and buildings and stuff using Japanese architecture and design because he worked for an design firm, is able to revolutionize the town that he's born into using his architectural knowledge because his knowledge is allowed to be kept. These are fantastical fantasy stories. And it's like, if I were to be able to keep one thing, if it were true that when we die we're reborn, but we're reborn on a different world, and the one thing I could keep was a little bit of working knowledge of science or technology from this world, and be put into a world that doesn't have it, what could I accomplish? That would be fun, potentially. It could also end horribly because there are like ones where they're tried to be taken advantage of. There's other ones where things go downhill real fast. All depends on the author. But I mean, in those kinds of scenarios, there's no going back. There's no way to go back to the other world that you grew up, that you lived and died in, because the two don't coexist with each other. It's a different universe, a different reality, so on. And so if that kind of thing kind of exists, there's no way for any of us to know it. Nobody, not one, because there's no going back. But man, that I love. I get tickled thinking about going, you know, there's one thing I'm looking forward to when I die, is finding out whether or not we're reborn in some way, shape, or form. I'm not afraid of death. I know death is a part of life. I don't welcome death with open arms because I want to live, as all living organisms do. I enjoy the things I enjoy, which don't necessarily prolong my life, but I've canceled out some of the things that make it shorter. But in the long run, when it's my time to go, I'm either going to wink out of existence and that's it, that's the end of things, or there might be something after that. But I'm not afraid of that potential something after that. I'm not afraid of finding out, oh, there is a deity. I'm not afraid of any of that. Because if there is a deity, and this has been said before, if there is a deity that actually gave a rat's ass about us, it would not judge me in a negative manner for living my life the way I have, with the things that we do and do not know and the things that we can and cannot prove. Whereas if, on the other hand, I presumed to know what that deity thought and knew and live my life in accordance to that, and I've done atrocious things on that behalf, I think that deity would be really fucking pissed off at me. So when they say, oh, our religion's the one true religion, it's like, well, you've got 40,000 other people who disagree with you, or 40,000 different variations plus that disagree with you. Do you really want to take that chance?
Yeah.
It's like, I forget what the postulate was. Well, if you don't think God's real, just believe, just in case. It's like, actually, it's the other way around, buddy. You're thinking of it all wrong. In fact, who was it on the Atheist Experience? Matt Dillahunty. He did a short video of that mentality, that phrase. Um, and I'm trying to remember what it was called. Um, Well, anyway, if you go on YouTube, look up the Atheist Experience, Matt Dillahunty. He talks about uh, the phrase that scenario where you know you should
Oh, Pascal's wager. That's what it is.
Pascal's wager. Yeah, he talks about the fallacies of Pascal's wager and how it should really be written if you're using true rationality for it in reference to Pascal's wager. And when I listened to him talk about that, when I listened to him talk about Pascal's wager and how it should have truly been written, um, it was mind blowing.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
Yeah, it is. It's wild, but it's a really good eye opener. It is really something that people should listen to, especially if they are only lightly knowledgeable about Pascal's wager, or if they've only heard it in passing by a religious person. To hear what Pascal's wager is versus what it becomes when you apply true rationality and logical reasoning to it, it's night and day differences. It really is.
Yeah,
And it's one of
it's a
and
nightmare.
it's and the thing is that a lot of atheists such as myself who used to be former believers. I mean, when people do the whole new true Scotsman fallacy and say, "Oh, you were never a true, never true, whatever," it's like, first off, yeah, I might not have been the best Jewish boy in the world or the most devout, but when I converted, when I was a born again Christian, I was full on in the Kool Aid. Okay, I truly believed with all my heart. And it took a long time to dig myself out of that hole. And one of the things that still hounds somebody who comes from my position is the concept of hell because it's drilled into you. And when I was listening to Matt Dillahunty's rewording of Pascal's wager using logic and reasoning, that I had been slowly trimming away at the rope of hell dangling around my feet, but there was a tiny little thread that just wouldn't cut. That listening to him talk about that cut that final thread and dropped that lead weight off of me like a rock.
It's hard to be able to do that sometimes, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, the in specifically in Christianity, that that threat, that ultimate threat of hell, is it is so pernicious because you typically get indoctrinated into believing it at such a young age that how the hell do you get how do you get rid of it? You know, you might as well just say, well, forget your multiplication tables. Dumb mother, what? And for so many people, that's, you know, it's on that same par. How the hell do you get rid of it? You almost
And
can't.
and a credit to my parents when I was growing up and they were encouraging the belief in a deity. Um, they never once used hell as a weapon against my behavior or anything like that.
Good.
But they did explain that bad people go to hell. Bad people are people who are like murderers and rapists and all those things. Um, but that, people who just do a little bit of wrong, like, okay, they spilled the milk, they don't go to hell. That was an accident. And so they never tried to use it against me that way as a kid, which means it wasn't ingrained in me as deeply as some of the other kids who have had the threat of hell of not eating your vegetables and shit, which is that is child abuse, that is traumatic, and that if there is a hell, those people who do that shit should go there. So I didn't have that burden, but it came later as I focused more on religious studies and such, the hell aspect drilling into me. So, and what I used to use as kind of a mantra was that whole comic that showed a guy dressed and looking like Jesus standing at a door, knocking on it, going, "Come out here and worship me, or else." And the guy behind the door going, "Or else what? Or else I'll punish you." And or no, I'm sorry, I've got that wrong. Come out and worship me and allow me to save you from your punishment. My punishment from what? My punishment, your punishment for not worshiping me. That's what it was. And I can't remember if that was Far Side or what. Um,
No, that one wouldn't have been. But I know
no.
that,
Farsight would have been kicked out of the newspaper. But you know what I'm talking about.
yeah, that one's been a photo manip for
A long time.
it's been a while, but yeah, that definitely would not have been a Far Side caliber.
No, but it was in the style of one. Or style of a non sequitur, I should say.
Mm,
Comic
There's that.
strip. And that one always stays with me. Or it used to before I saw Matt Delahunty's video on Pascal's Wager. But that used to be my armor against the lingering bullshit, that trauma of the concept of hell.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm starting to get a little
Fuzzy?
I'm starting to get a little along in the brain right about now. So I want to hit a couple things just really quickly.
Go for it.
Io had said, "I can't atheist. The misogyny in certain atheist circles make me cringe. Neil deGrasse Tyson and Sagan are closer to what I believe in. We are the universe discovering ourselves." I do not argue with you. I would say, however, that the misogyny piece, I don't believe that believe, meaning this is opinion, that is an atheist thing. I think it's an asshole thing. But then again, I happen to be one of those people that I am not that type of personality. And I'm not saying that I'm representative of everybody, just that from my perspective, someone's an asshole, they're going to be an asshole. It doesn't matter where their affiliation is. Other than this program, I don't see myself as part of, quote unquote, an atheist group, so to speak. So I've got a kind of a limited window in how I look at it. So for me, it's just, am I an atheist? Yes. Am I in a club about it? Well, like any good atheist, I've got a podcast. I guess that qualifies, but it's not. It's a podcast of a half dozen people when all is said and done, really. So we're a coffee clutch, I guess, just without the coffee. So if you don't want to be part of a group by association because a bunch of dick waving going on, perfectly reasonable. I'll never argue with you on that one. Totally get that. But
I would have a different kind of argument, though.
Sure.
And my argument would be, look, I understand that if you go into religious circles, a lot of religions are definitely misogynistic.
Oh, yeah.
In how they treat women. Most of them, probably close to all, but I can't say all because I don't know all. But of the ones I've studied, definitely. And
well, I don't know so much about the I'm trying to remember the
I'm saying
Norse.
the religion gives, if you follow the religion, the approach is misogynistic in that it degrades women, treats them less than um, farm animals. They have to be subservient to men, those sorts of things.
No, I get you.
I consider that to be very misogynistic and degrading.
I'm sorry if
Now,
he really quickly. I'm sorry if you hear me smiling and smirking behind everything else. Is because I'm thinking about the ancient Rome, ancient Greek, Jupiter in particular, Zeus, who very much women were given just as good as the men were given and taken, and just some of the stuff that goes on with those stories is just,
oh yeah,
whew, man. Anyway, sorry, going on.
Hera was a badass. I mean,
Yes, she was.
Yeah. um, so that aside, I'd understand if you avoided all religious functions or religious based functions because there is a propensity for that misogyny. On the other hand, if you go to a skeptics convention or an atheist based convention, I would argue that you remember that atheism is not a dogma, It does not tell people what to believe. It does not tell them what not to believe. It is a label saying that these people with this label do not have a belief in one or more recognized religion and deities or deities. And so, for example, Christians are not as atheistic as as an atheist because they believe in one God, but they don't believe in all the gods. So they have atheistic tendencies towards all the other gods of all the other religions. Okay. I am an atheist in that I don't believe any of the gods that have been presented to me to be true because nobody has provided the evidence to convince me otherwise. It doesn't mean that I don't believe any gods exist, period, just that none of the established gods exist because there's no proof. I am not convinced. Therefore, I'm an atheist. And it doesn't tell people, oh, well, now that you don't believe in a God, you have to treat women equally. Now that you don't believe in a God, you have to treat trans people equally. Now that you don't believe in a God, you have to treat all people equally. It doesn't do any of that. It doesn't have any kind of guidance or dogma because, again, it's a label, a title, if you will. It has nothing else to it. If the circles around you of people who describe themselves to be atheists or skeptics are misogynistic in nature, it's not because of the atheism, it's just because they're freaking misogynists.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
They
we've
and people will find a way to use anything to validate the thing that they use to belittle or demean other people and make themselves feel better.
yeah. And I want to make sure that we kind of put this here. We're not trying to argue with you about which groups you may or may not be part of or should not be part of. In general, unfortunately, culturally in the West, the 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 other um down punching, for lack of a better way of putting it. I told you, brain's starting to smooth out right now, and no alcohol involved, which means this is not a good moment. It's there, and it sucks, man. I every once in a while I will hear. I mean, currently right now, as of recording, one of the things that's been going around recently is the question about the bear in the woods. If you don't know about that one, look it up. Well, I'm not going to go into that one now. I'll just go ahead and I'll just say, as a guy, it hurts my heart to see how different I am to so many other groups. And I would like to think that I'm still leading by example as being, quote unquote, one of the good ones. Am I saying that I should be given accolades and a gold star? Fuck yeah. Because then it would point out that I would like to think I'm one of the good ones. And if I deserve it, good. The ones that deserve it deserve to be shown so that people can say, see, this is what you do. Am I saying that I want to be on that pedestal? No. Would I like to be? Sure. But we guys need to point out the people who definitely should not be anywhere near a pedestal and tell them, hey, you know what you're doing wrong? Besides everything? Teaching is an important thing, man. I wish people would just listen more often, but
I mean,
that's...
here's an example. I put a link in the thing. One of the famous people throughout history who was an atheist was Thomas Edison. We know, based on history, that Thomas Edison was a dick.
He was an asshole.
He was an asshole. I can't imagine how that man treated women, let alone other people. And we know how he treated other people,
We know
especially
how...
Tesla.
Yeah, I was about
Yeah,
to say.
yeah. We know he was a liar, a cheat. He murdered animals with electricity to try to to put somebody
He-
out of business.
He murdered a fucking elephant to prove his own point that was ridiculous in and of
Ridiculous.
itself.
He messed around with X-rays and just destroyed the life of his lab assistant in it. I mean, he was not a necessarily a good person. Sure,
No.
we got the light bulb, but his team got the light bulb. Okay, um, he and his team developed a lot of things. They did a lot of things, but just because he was an atheist doesn't mean he was a good person. He just happens to be famous and an atheist. So I would argue that if you go to a religious function, you're highly likely to encounter misogyny. If you go to an atheist function or a skeptical function in a society that does not treat women well, you're still probably going to encounter a lot of misogyny. However, if you go to a society where there is a lot less misogyny, except for what's dictated by religion, then you should probably see a difference. And I would say if you're in that kind of a scenario, take a chance. You know, that one you have a higher probability of having a better time. Don't be afraid to run the probabilities and you know make choices accordingly. I mean, it's your life. I'm not going to tell you that you have to go to a skeptical convention like Skepticon or something like that. You don't want to be there? Don't go. That's your life. If I'm telling you how to live it, I'm an idiot.
And if you feel comfortable with how we are, how we interact, admittedly, it's a quote unquote parasocial kind of thing here. If you feel comfortable in how we treat you guys, thank you. Whether you say anything beyond that or not, and I've said this on so many of my other shows, if you keep coming back because you find something worthwhile in how we interact, I cannot tell you how amazing a compliment that in and of itself is.
You know what
Honestly,
else I
truly.
take as a compliment?
Hmm.
If somebody doesn't like something that they said and they want to chat with me about it. Because I think it takes more effort to sit down and have a conversation about something that was said, to analyze it, to see who maybe if it was something I said was wrong, you know, point if you think I'm wrong on a topic, let's say I say 2 + 2 is 5 and you think it's 2 + 2 is 4. Let's have a conversation. What I don't like is when people yell and scream, 2 + 2 is 4, you stupid idiot. What the fuck's wrong with you? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, look, I get enough of that if I turn on the TV, which is why I don't turn on the TV. But if you want to sit down and work out the math together and show me that I'm wrong, I'm that to me, that's very respectful and very nice. And, you know, I'm giving my opinion here on something in terms of, you know, misogyny, and I'm not a woman. It doesn't mean I'm not allowed to have an opinion, but it means that I'm not as affected by it as a woman is. However, I do see it in my surrounding areas because I pay attention to those things around me. And the ones I see doing the most are the ones who are talking about going to the church functions and having a good time at those church gatherings as compared to the people that I know in my area who are atheists, who we get together and we don't do that shit. So it's a personal experience in that respect. You might live in an area where it doesn't matter. It's misogyny left and right. And I would say avoid that crap like the plague. You don't need that kind of hell in your life. You really don't. Don't do that to yourself just because I have a better experience by me.
Yeah. I'll do three things really quickly to get us out of here. First off, the fact that Tech just mentioned, I'm not female, so my opinion is based off of what I have versus what I've experienced. Completely blew past that in my head. Thank you for voicing that, because I absolutely had like a minor thought about that. It went right past my head. Thank you, because that's a piece that we constantly forget about, culturally speaking, to acknowledge that. So, just thank you. And there are two other people that I'm not going to talk further about them because they don't need to be, but two people that I want to recognize who have helped to inspire and keep people going. Christopher Hitchens and Albert Einstein. Christopher Hitchens, who absolutely showed that it is possible to say, I have an opinion and I'm right. Sure, prove to me that I'm wrong. You know what? They proved to me that I was wrong. I was fucking wrong. And turned his table. And Einstein, who thought that he made a mistake, his biggest mistake ever, only to later, years and years later, get taught, no, you were exactly right. Your only blunder was thinking that you made a blunder. And everything that he had formally written down for proofs of the universe, even decades after his death, have all come to pass as proven. Well done.
My favorite was Richard Feynman. Just absolutely one of my favorite historical atheists ever. If it hadn't been for him, the true fault in the shuttle explosion may never have been known to the public. Yeah.
Smart man.
And what's really funny is that he actually avoided the draft by being honest. So when his wife died, he didn't believe in
Quickly.
an afterlife. Yeah, he didn't believe in an afterlife. He didn't believe in uh, anything after death. But he would run concepts and things going through his head as if he was talking to his wife. He was talking to the memories of her. So at one point during the draft, they had a questionnaire to find out your mental well-being, and one of the things was, is do you talk to the deceased? And he put down, yeah, he talks to his wife all the time. It was one of many questions he answered with full honesty, not giving it a second thought, just being completely honest. And they marked him as unfit to serve, which kind of boggled his mind.
You know what? That's what it took. Cool.
Well, he eventually went back. He really wanted to serve in his capacity as a physicist and mathematician and everything else. So he eventually went back and they reviewed and realized that the person who was giving the test was just listening to the answers and writing on paper and marking him as bonkers, rather than inquiring and finding out the context behind these answers. So yeah, but it was because I've said it before and I'll say it again on this show as my closing. If you have not read the book, surely you must be joking, Mr. Feynman. You need to read it. Get the audible version of it if you like to listen to books, because it's amazing.
Maybe that's something I should see about doing for a change.
I'm sorry, it's surely you're joking, Mr. Feynman. Not surely you must be. I apologize.
I'm sure we can find something with all that.
I put the link in the show notes section. I have the audiobook of it. I have listened to it so many times. I have forgotten how many times I've listened to it. Um, when I really want to listen to just a different time of life and things that went on that you just don't normally hear about, it's a great book.
Fair enough. So with that, we do have to we do have to call it a night. So everybody, as always, thank you so much for being with us again tonight. We hope that you found something worthwhile in all of our perspectives and you got something to think about for the, couple of weeks ahead. Because as a reminder, there will be no show for the next 2 weeks. Because I'm going to need that time. I'm really going to need that time off. And before we leave, I'll explain a portion of that and a memory that I've got. So over in the chat, Io, Stephanie, thank you. Fearless had to take off early because tired. Perfectly understandable. You guys take care of yourselves.
Yep.
You may
And
be...
Io, shout out to you for finding out that those extra links.
Yes, thank you, as always. Um, uh, I don't... I'm going to check what the current weather is over here in Buffalo. I think it is still cloudy and mostly overcast because there are magnetic storms that are going on as of recording. And yesterday, the auroras were quite visible in a lot of the country, in a lot of the northern hemisphere. So some people have been able to see it with like just phones, the cameras on their phones. I was going to go ahead and, if it was clear enough, break out my DSLR and put it on a tripod and give it like a long exposure to see what I could get. But when I checked earlier, it was mostly cloudy, so I don't think I'm even going to get the chance to do that. Tech, glad you were able to make it. You take care of yourself the next couple of weeks, huh?
Yeah, you too, man. And if you need me, you reach out.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
I know. Like I was saying, next 2 weeks, I'm going to be... I don't know what kind of condition I'm going to be in. It's going to be difficult. It always is. I keep saying that, it's now going to be 19 years. It's still yesterday in a lot of ways for me. It probably always will be. There are so many memories that I have, so many things that I would love to be able to impart. I'd love to be able to do a dump of stuff that we did, out of my brain direct. Well, most of it. I mean, some of the stuff is just for me and really don't need to know about that. There are memories that I want to keep, and there are memories that I know full well I've probably screwed over in my head, and I'm kind of sorry for that. But one of the things that I had done for a number of years was what I wear this hat for, the Ride for Roswell. For a lot of years, I was fundraising for the Roswell Park Cancer Institute, who worked over my wife for like 2.5 years. And they were always great. And unfortunately, over the last few years, I've just, I don't do it because I have very much prioritized everyone else above me for many years. And I'm trying to find a way of dealing for just myself. But one of the things that I did that I'm still proud of, and I mean legit proud of, like prideful of, was that for several years, I would do a fundraising radio stream, like we do with Friday nights, on the weekend, the holiday weekend around when Shujin passed, which is, help me out here, Tech, it's Memorial Day, right?
Yeah, Memorial Day's coming up.
Okay, so Memorial Day weekend, which falls on a Monday every year. And so it would be, a long weekend. So I would do the Friday night show like we normally would, which is a 3-hour show. And for me, that would be from 9:30 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. Friday into Saturday morning, local time. And I wouldn't do any prep. I would not have done anything special. It was just a regular full day, work, get the kid to a friend's house for the night, do the 3-hour set like we normally do, and then start a 36-hour stream. 36-hour nonstop radio stream after having done 3 hours. So I was on the air for effectively almost 40 hours straight, and then go to sleep about a couple hours later and be dead to the world.
Hmm. And I used to listen to those streams religiously. I never got to be on the stream, but I used to message you and stuff like that throughout the various hours and such. And man, I really appreciated um, those events. I mean, especially when you do the Jack Benny show clips in there for the like the half hour break or whatever, so that you can take like a shower or something like that. Make some food or some coffee or whatever.
Yeah, and I had a Fearless at one point even threatened to um, get in touch with a place to send me pizza. We do what we do because we can. And I'm trying really hard to remind myself that I've done enough. I can't be Superman. I can't help everybody. And I've done my fair share. So, all of you that have helped me in some way, shape, or form through all these years, thank you. And like I promised her, we will beat this for someone else. My word. I have to believe. So, whoever it is that gives you your close, warm, personal, whoever it is that gives you your safety, your castle, you don't have to let them know. Be nice if you do, but you don't have to. Show them one way or other. A little something here, a little something there. Just one thing where you can actually go, that's just because I appreciate you. But otherwise, we'll see you in a couple weeks. So, until that time, as always, I wish you all the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. And, of course, as always, because I still have not taken off rings. 19 years. I am still in love. Well, Matane Fujin, I love you. I miss you. Dream of me. Till we are back together again in a couple weeks. Good night.